just don't know. People see me, but they just don't know. Come on, baby, let the good time roll.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? It is Straight Out of Boston here, aka the King of Boston, and today we're back for episode 9 of my MLB 13 The Show Road to the Show series here on MLB 13 The Show with starting pitcher Jonny Legend. And as always, I like to do, or as I try to do in these MLB commentaries, I like to talk about real life Major League Baseball, especially as we get towards the off season. A lot of moves have gone down in the past couple of days, really. The last episode I talked about the Prince Fielder Ian Kinsler mega trade. Well, in kind of the 5 days or so since that episode, a lot has gone down. More specifically, a couple of pretty big signings and one pretty important trade. And let's get right into it. I want to talk about those a little bit, share my thoughts. And I'll start up with the Brian McCann signing. He signed for, I believe, what was 5 years and $87 million or $85 million. It was in that range, I believe. I think it was $85 million flat with an option. And a vesting option for the 6th year that would make it $100 million total. So a big signing. Obviously, catchers are very hard to come by. Ones that produce offense and defense. It's kind of a hard position to find production on both ends at. And the Yankees definitely found a productive player in Brian McCann. Whether he's worth $17 million, you can, make that of what you want. I mean, that's all up, for your opinion or whatever. I don't think I would have paid him $17 million. Just based off of the fact that, especially what they have Gary Sanchez, they might move Brian McCann to first base at some point during that contract, and then you're paying $17 million for a first baseman that does not have great offensive numbers for a first base standard, whereas compared to a catcher standard, he has great offensive numbers because it's just hard to find good offensive catchers in Major League Baseball. But nonetheless, I think, you lock him up for 5 years. It's going to help the team. They had one of the worst kind of catching platoons in baseball last year, with Chris Stewart and Francisco Cervelli and all those guys, but Austin Romine included. But I think that's definitely an improvement. Like I said, I'm not in love with the contract, but I like the player. I think he's a good guy. I think he's a good player. I think he'll help the team, and I think it was a solid signing for the Yankees, and he's going to be able to utilize that short porch in right field. That was a big selling point for him, he said. So it was a nice signing by the Yankees. Another signing that happened over the weekend on Saturday night was Jonny Peralta to the St. Louis Cardinals for 4 years and $53 million. This signing was completely... I did not understand this one bit whatsoever. I understand that the Cardinals need a shortstop, and I understand that, they can move him to third base and still try to go after like a Troy Tulowitzki type, keep Matt Carpenter at second base or whatever after David Freese is gone. But, you're paying a career and I understand that he hit 303 last year or whatever, but you're paying a career 268 hitter who is not known. He's really known as a minus fielder. What is that? 13 and a little over $13 million? Man, I just do not like that deal. I mean, I guess $13 million you pay for, an above-average player but not a great player, and I guess Jonny Peralta is an above-average shortstop, but I just did not like this signing. I think that was a big overpay. But you know what? It's the St. Louis Cardinals, and sometimes you just gotta trust the St. Louis Cardinals. They usually know what they're doing in that organization. They've been consistently successful for a while now, so I guess you just trust it. But $13.25 million for, a slightly above average shortstop? I don't know. He was a year removed from like a year where he had 230 with like a 305 on base or something. I don't get the whole. I didn't get that at all. I think that they should have just kind of bitten their tongue a little bit, and I guess that's not the right word, but I think they should have kind of maybe move some of their young pitching, or maybe move like a Lance Lynn or a Joe Kelly or something for. And those guys are still young, but compared to like Shelby Miller and Carlos Martinez and Michael Wacha, they aren't. But I think they should have made some moves and tried to trade for Troy Tulowitzki or something. I think that would have really put them over the top with a guy like that at the shortstop position. But nonetheless, we'll see. They value the young guys. They value their draft picks a lot. Jonny Peralta was not offered a qualifying offer, so the Cardinals did not end up losing a pick with that signing. And the Cardinals value picks over almost every other organization in baseball outside of probably the Rays. But anyway, I didn't love the signing. He's certainly going to be an upgrade over Pete Cosman. I guess if the Cardinals have the money, you might as well spend it when you're that close to a World Series. So, contract aside, I like the move in a vacuum, so to say. I think he helps that team out. I think that they can, deal with this kind of lack of range over there at the shortstop position, and they'll be fine either way. But when you add the contract into it, I'm not in love with the signing. So, nonetheless, the thing about free agency is guys always get overpaid. It's just how free agency works. Everyone gets $2 or $3 or $4 or $5 or $6 or even $7 million more than most people think they should, just because, it's a bidding war, and there's always one team that's going to overpay for a guy because they really have a need at that position, like the Cardinals and Jonny Peralta. I don't think the Cardinals think Jonny Peralta's worth $13.25 million a year, but they need a shortstop, and when you're that close to a World Series, sometimes you just got to overpay for guys like that. So, guys always get overpaid. It's market inflation. It just happens, and it's just how baseball works. So, anyway, it's how most sports work, quite frankly, but nonetheless, there was also a pretty significant trade that went down involving the Cardinals. They swapped David Freese and Fernando Salas, I believe, to the Angels for Peter Borges and a top pitching prospect whose name I do not remember. But that's another solid trade. Once again, they don't trade. They don't lose a draft pick. They pick up a center fielder, which is a need at this point. I mean, Borges is probably going to platoon with John Jay. That's a very fast combination. It's a very good defensive combination. And, I think you let Jay hit versus lefties and Borges hit versus righties, you'll probably get some pretty solid offensive production out of that position. So I think it was a good move. Once again, they don't trade any, or they don't, lose any draft picks or trade any of their young pitching to get and to fill a need, really, as it kind of became a need. I don't think they would have wanted to go into the 2014 season with Shane Robinson as their opening day center fielder if they faced a lefty or whatever. But nonetheless, so I liked the move a lot. David Freese, he's a World Series hero. It's hard to trade guys like that. He's a hometown guy as well. But I think the Cardinals did the right thing from a baseball standpoint. Borges is not only probably a better player at this point, but he's also just more of a need. They can move Carpenter over to third base now, or they can move Peralta to third base. They really have a lot of flexibility with their infield now. And I like David Freese as a player. I think he's a potential bounce-back candidate with the Anaheim Angels or the LA Angels or whatever, but we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting to see him and Josh Hamilton on the same team. But nonetheless, so those were the three kind of big deals that went down. In other baseball news, the whole A-Rod thing's going on. I don't really have opinions on that, but I think A-Rod's a little bit of a psychopath, quite frankly. I just think he's gone a little bit nuts. But anyway, the Braves also announced they're going to make a new stadium or whatever. The Dodgers signed Dan Herron to a 1-year, $10 million deal. I really like that signing. I liked the Dan Herron signing by the Nationals last year for 1 year, $13 million. It didn't work out quite as well as I thought it would, just because he struggled so much in the first half. But in the second half, I think from it was like July 15th onward or something, he had a 3.29 ERA. He was very productive in the second half as that team kind of flew under the radar and kind of climbed back into the division race at one point. But anyway, I think it was a good move. The Dodgers, they have a couple really good pitchers at the top. Their big three, really, of Kershaw, Greinke, and Ryu. And you can throw Ryu in there. He was really productive last year. I think you have Herron as a fourth guy. If you get any sort of similar production to what they got in the second half of Herron last year, 1 year, $10 million, there's no such thing as a bad 1 year contract, really, because it's not going to hurt you in the long run. You'll just have to kind of fork up some extra money currently, but maybe instead of spending $7 million at the position and $3 million for a backup shortstop or whatever, you just end up spending $10 million there and maybe looking internally for a shortstop. So, it can kind of hurt you in that sense, but for the most part, there's really no such thing as a bad 1 year contract. So it was a good move, high reward, low risk type of deal for the Dodgers, and I thought that was a very solid signing. I like Dan Aaron as a pitcher, and he's another bounce back candidate as I talked about with David Freese. So good move nonetheless. This gameplay is wrapping up pretty soon. We've had 3 starts in this episode. I'll run them by quickly. The first start, I ended up allowing 7 runs, I believe, on 9 hits in 3 innings. I got through the first 3 relatively unscathed, and then just something happened. I could not make it out in the top of the 4th inning or whatever, or the bottom of the 4th, and I ended up not recording it out before I got pulled. So anyway, we settled down against Toronto. I believe I had like 6 innings and 2 runs maybe or something, or 3 runs, something like that. It was a pretty solid performance, nothing spectacular, but here we're going up against the Minnesota Twins, and it's been a pretty solid start once again so far, although I believe that was Trevor Plouffe who hit that one all the way into the right field gap. That's going to get down and be a triple for Trevor Plouffe of the Minnesota Twins. But you can see we've only allowed 1 run through 5 innings so far. Valencia's up. Valencia hits that one to the second baseman. They'll fire onto first. That will score the run. But we still have a 3-run lead, excuse me. And this is where Jonny Legend would begin to settle down a little bit. 0-2 count, 2 outs. That is going to be lined into center field, and that will be caught by my man right there. I believe that was Lorenzo Cain out there in center. So we're going to advance here to the top of the 7th. Here is Ryan Domit, first pitch of the AB. And Domit slaps the one into the center fielder, or into center field for a base hit. So he gets on base, and by starting to hit Johnny Legend around here a little bit, I do kind of recognize sometimes when I get a little bit tired, and me being Johnny Legend, I should say, and, you know, I start to hang a couple pitches and stuff like this happens. So first and second with 2 on now and no one out. Kind of a bad situation. It's a 3-run lead, so this brings the tying run to the plate. And Ned Yost gets wise. He pulls us. That's probably the smart move. I would like to stay in. I hate leaving runners on and getting pulled. But luckily for us, none of them would score, and we would end up getting the win in that ball game. So I believe that would wrap up this advancement period. As we will see here, we're going to end up playing next appearance, and this will end our advancement period. I do believe. Nope. Okay, I guess not. Never mind. I'm wrong. I'm sorry. I apologize. Anyway, that's going to wrap up this video. So let me know what you guys thought about those offseason signings. If your favorite team is the Cardinals and the Angels or the Yankees or whatever, let me know. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. I hope you did enjoy. It doesn't matter. Peace.